That is those are the numbers as it relates to the general fund. With the sewer fund, as we've talked before, there is already a good, healthy sum reserve there, or not, and it's not, one of the problems we had, and the reason this comes to you with the amendment is because I had to go, I put this before the Budget Committee for their consideration, and we got into discussion of terms, and in the terminology in the enterprise funds isn't a unrestricted fund balance. The terminology in the enterprise funds is the minimum unassigned fund balance, different from the, the audited unrestricted. Well, I'm sorry, I won't bore you with that detail, but it really comes down to the circumstance that we have plenty of money in the sewer fund, even after we borrow against that to do the Parkview and Edward sewer line.
So you're in excess right now?
Yes.
The town, the millions?
Well, the enterprise fund, not the town, the enterprise fund is in surplus there, and it's good. It's what we refer to there as the minimum unrestricted net position, not fund balance. This summary that was put together late this afternoon used the wrong term. That's what we were trying to avoid. But anyway, right now we have plenty in the sewer fund. It's the water department where we don't have adequate reserves or unrestricted adequate unrestricted net position. In the water company, what we need is $175,000, and we currently have only $69,960. And in addition to that, we have need for an estimated $500,000 renovation of the existing water storage tank at the industrial plant. So the water company really needs to get its financial house in order, either by way of a bond or on a pay-as-you-go basis. We would prefer to do that on a pay-as-you-go basis instead of encouraging more debt. So what we have there is a circumstance with a calculated advocacy for a unrestricted net position is $175,375. We have $69,960. We anticipate to be able to increase that by $40,000 this year because at my direction, what has been happening is any new connections from Laurelwood are going into capital. They're not going into offset operating expense, which is something that in my view never should have been happening. So we're using those funds not to support the operating considerations. We're using them to advance long-term capital. So that will come up to $109,000, which will be short in the unassigned net position by about $65,000. Again, not an insurmountable amount of money. We can get there. At the same time, though, we also are budgeting, and you'll see in the water budget, a separate set-aside for the tank repairs. So, you know, what happens in these things, or what the government officials are recommending, is that we don't wait for the things to fail to find the funding. We budget a regular appropriation to make sure, just the way we would in most of our household circumstances, to make sure that there is a resource there to be able to go to when things fail and when there is need, because we know it won't last forever. And that's what this whole initiative is about. It's trying to make sure that we get to those sensible balances to both, you know, with the general fund circumstance more so than with the enterprise funds. It's really a symptom of our overall economic health. Much like in pursuing a loan for, you know, buying a house. You know, the bank wants to see that you have no more than 1/3 of your annual income going to house expense, housing expense. if you're in a business circumstance, if you're borrowing, they want to see that you've got 1.2 times the debt service to be able to maintain your cash flow. This is the same circumstance. As we know from what has happened with the prior bond that was issued, we are debt limited as a community. We're knocking that down, but we have been debt limited. And there are not many things that we can do, aside from growing more tax base, that can change our overall capacity to be able to afford future borrowing, when or if that ever happens. But when it does happen, and it will, I would hope that we're in a position to say, yes, let's do it. We can do it. And this is one of those steps that will help us to get to that point. So I strongly advocate that you consider and adopt this ordinance to make it a part of the town's regular planning process, to not have this happen once, but during your tenure and mine, but well into the future, to the point that at some point, hopefully, we do accomplish a 16% circumstance. Once we go above the 12, it can happen simply by, maybe better than expected tax collection rates, year-end budget fortune, if you will, and not actually have to be budgeting for it. But until then, we need to be budgeting for it to be able to get ourselves into that position.
So if we have any excess in unrestricted, whatever we're titled, that's in an interest-bearing account?
Yes.
Okay. What's the current rate, you know? It's a lot of money.
Not enough.
Not a trick question, that's okay.
No, well, that is a good question. I think really about between 0.5% and 1% on that order. And actually, it's one of the things, as I've said in the past, that, we talked about the charter circumstance. I would like to see more people involved in those kinds of decisions, such that we look for better opportunities and have resources available to find those. I will be meeting with the budget committee after this budget cycle. They're willing to continue to help, and I'm going to draw on every ounce of input that I can possibly get from them for that kind of assistance. Because another way to grow these balances is to make sure that the money is properly, we have to do it with the right level of risk too. I mean, we can't just be of hedge funds, or high-risk funds, I should say. It's got to be prudent. So it will be lower than maybe some of our own personal retirement funds might want to be in, but it needs to be that way. But there's a balance.
Once we get to 16, it stops.
There's no need, in my view, and from everything that I've read, for us to have more than 2 months of our expenses on hand.
So you want to bring it up to that, and that's it.
Well, no less than 12. Where you go between 12 and 16 is, optimizes our circumstances. Going beyond 16 will not help.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance amendment, section 6-33, total unassigned fund balance.
Motion. Second.
Second.
I might add, just add, Mr. President, the reason that this is before you tonight, and I've been so insistent on putting it, is because it is part of the budget discussion we'll be having on the 18th. And these numbers, there are numbers in each of these accounts that are targeted to be able to comply with this policy. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bonnelly?
Yes.
Mr. McGee? Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. Before I adjourn, if I wanted, something I've never done before, if you want to reconsider the vote that was made previously in the evening, can I do that now? If I want to go back in, it's not because Mr. McGee voted no on this, it's because I've been thinking about it for the last 20 minutes regarding if you go to section 6, zoning complaints. I mean, I think if somebody makes a complaint against you, you have a right you should have a right to find out who's making a complaint and confront someone who's, I think someone will be a lot less likely to make a complaint if they know that you're going to know who's making the complaint. So I would like to reconsider my vote. So how would I go about it?
You can't reconsider your vote. You can make a motion to reconsider that
item. Somebody in the
He
affirmative.
was in the minority. No, you were in the majority.
I was in the majority.
Yeah,
So he can make the motion, and if it's seconded, then it's reconsidered back on the table, and then a new motion can be made to pass or fail. That's how you get a chance to vote.
I'd be amenable to that if we typed it up by saying any false applications of complaints. There should, there should be some type of, just don't come in and start complaining, because we have people in town that will
That's it.
you know kind of who they might be.
Stop.
And that's exactly why, and that's what's been gnawing at me. I'm thinking,
Right now, the motion to reconsider needs to be seconded and voted to get it back on the table for this.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider.
Item number,
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider item number 6, zoning ordinance amendment, section 15.1, complaints regarding violations.
Second, for discussion.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bottomoli? Yes. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
now it's back on the table as if we've never voted on it.
Okay. So now, if I may, Mr. President, what kind of language can we put in there so we don't have nuisance complaints?
Well, I think the fact that you take it, that's the problem. I think that's what was gnawing at me, is that if somebody can go in there and make a complaint totally anonymously, then they would be more likely to.
That's not the case.
There's gonna be a lot of issues.
I felt the same way about this until I was rereading it. It's not an anonymous complaint.
They have to sign it, they're gonna get.
The person has to come in and make, it's not somebody,
Right, but then it's still
calling the
anonymous if someone's going into, if my neighbor's
Yes.
going and making complaints, then I'll never know.
zone
I'll never know that. Hey,
If I may, Mr. President.
I've done that. I filed a written complaint. I signed my name to it.
Yep.
Okay? In my mind now, it befalls to the zoning officer to look into it and find out if it's a valid complaint. If it's a valid complaint, it shouldn't matter who filed it. If it's a nuisance complaint or it's invalid, then there's nothing to do. I signed my name to it, and he went and told him who signed to it. And then I got physically threatened by that person. I got yelled at and physically threatened by the person I filed the complaint against. You had no right doing that. Well, I did have a right doing that because it was illegal what he was doing. That's the issue. And so you should protect people that want to file a complaint, because people will file a complaint if there is.
Why did he use your name?
It's gonna be a happy
Why did
medium,
he
though.
say he did?
That's my issue. The zoning officer shouldn't go in there and say, Gary Ezovski filed a complaint. If Gary Ezovski signs his name to a complaint and the zoning inspector goes and looks into it and it's actually something that's wrong, it's enforceable, then he should enforce it. It shouldn't matter who filed the complaint. If there's no grounds for it, then he's investigated, there's no grounds for it. There's no reason to put that guy that filed the complaint's name into the mix. It creates an issue.
It does. There was a gentleman.
It can create a bigger issue, and so people won't go forward and file a complaint, even though there's something wrong, because they don't want their neighbor to come back and have a problem with them.
So there are two people in the audience, you being one of them, and somebody else in the audience, absolutely experienced that very thing. That's why the zoning committee took it up, because people were threatened with physical harm. But if, Terry, you're right. If you read the last paragraph, the complainant's personal information shall remain confidential and shall not be divulged to the complainee or any other person, including town employees and elected officials, without written authorization of the complainant as part of the original formal written
If you
complaint.
file a complaint, you have to, it's in writing and it's signed, So that it's valid on who filed the complaint. It needs to be investigated. It shouldn't matter who filed it, though, as long as the person signed his name. It's not something Joe Blow walking in saying, hey, that guy's got an unregistered vehicle in his yard, I want you to go. No, you put it in writing, now he has to go and investigate it. And you also have ordinances to give him a timeline on how long he has to investigate it and give a written response back to the person complaining.
14 days.
Huh?
14 days.
10 days.
14 in this one.
But it's there, and it's there to protect, the person that's filing a complaint should have some protection, because it can create an issue.
I agree with that 100%, because I was on the committee that helped craft this. But I do have a concern about abuses of it. And if we can put
I
something.
don't disagree. That's why you sign your name to it. If you find out it's an abuse, now you can go back to that person. The person that you file the complaint should have that right to go and abuse the person that filed a complaint, though.
I agree.
If it's frivolous, then.
If it's frivolous, then the town should be able to take action against people filing frivolous
Absolutely.
complaints.
Absolutely.
That's a different issue. But the person filing the complaint should have some anonymous to it, so that
I think
it creates an issue.
Be a man about it.
You
You
don't
want
have
to
a
complain?
man in the house.
You want to put a complaint? Be a man about it. Or
Mr. Glidden, did you want to add to that?
I just, again, I just want to point out to the board, under the Open Access to Public Records Act, there is a provision that allows the investigatory records of public bodies with regard to possible violations of statute, other than the records of final actions taken. So it seems to me that I would ask the council to perhaps continue this matter, reopen the public hearing. We want to confirm that you can keep it confidential while you're investigating, but once you take an action, the person's going to probably
That's
be
good.
entitled to know.
That's
They're going to
good.
probably be able to, once the law enforcement, the zoning officer actually issues you a citation, then I think the open record's going to say you're entitled to know if you
I
ask.
think that's good. That's a good compliment.
But I think that's what it says.
so that,
No, they don't know before the during the investigation.
Well, I think that when the investigator goes, there's no need to say, hey, next door just complained. Let them
Until there's a finding of
look at the
fact. Until there's a
violation,
finding of
and
fact,
then they can find
there's a-
out.
there's a
who
citation.
made
All
it.
right, but yeah, but my argument is, what if it's not finding a fact, and now you get this, so the guy that complained and caused you some hardship, you're never gonna know who's busting your chops.
If you're in violation, what difference does it make who
Are
called
you
you?
kidding?
you're not in violation.
So it doesn't,
If you're not in violation, then you'll never know who's filing a false complaint.
but if someone is in violation, now they know who the complaintee was, and there can be repercussions.
Mr. Hennessy, you want to add to this conversation?
Just a small little comment. At the federal level, when complaints are filed, we ask if the person filing the complaint fears any retaliation. So it's known on the record, and that determines the course of action that is taken in investigating this.
That's good.
That's good.
Well, let's send this back then.
Right.
Send it back, you gotta work on this a little bit.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. President. Carl has to deal with some of these things. I just wonder if our deputy zoning officer has any input.
You want me to take the camera and point it at you?
No. In my experience over the last 4 years between here and Woonsocket, I do have many experiences with the chronic people who call just because they were driving by something down the road. They'll call in to say or stop in and put in a complaint regarding a zoning violation. It's my practice. I can't speak for anybody else's practice, but I will never tell anybody who told me where this came from. Up till, and actually, I've had several court cases, I've never had to bring in a complaint to say, to verify a complaint being filed. Basically, once the complaint comes in, most of the complaints that we deal with are usually use or outside of the property. That can be pretty much done as a drive-by, walk by, take some pictures you observe. Usually the property owner won't even know that there's an investigation going on unless you have to go inside the building. Something like that, and forgive me, I have not had a chance to read the ordinance on this. If there's something that an investigation has to be done where you have to enter the property, there may be something that has to be put on saying not to be disclosed who the complaint came from. But as for exterior violations, unregistered vehicles, trash and debris, that's something that if I'm driving by, I can see it without somebody telling me. So exterior violations, not an issue, but it would be the interior violations that will need to.
Well, that's a policy of yours, that's not a, so maybe it's, that's an excellent policy.
Yep.
Maybe, do we have to make law, I don't know what's really just a department policy.
I think Fran had the right idea.
Yeah.
Is there any concern?